Hello, folks. Hopefully, I'm live. We go through our regular process at the start of a new live event. We see. I interrupted myself by changing my scene. I don't think my computer liked it. Hopefully, I'm now live and you can hear me, and that's all okay. Let me know if there's anybody there, if if I'm coming through loud and clear, and if I've made some terrible mistakes as usual in my technical setup. Fingers crossed you guys are able to see me, able to hear me, and everything's sounding okay. Tonight, I'm going to be taking a look at the 11th edition core rules for 40k. And I'm going to be attempting to fathom out what's going on. It's been a long time since I have played 40k. And it's probably... Stony, great stuff. Glad you can hear me and see me. Good evening to you as well. Loud and clear. Great stuff, Chris. Thank you very much. Right, good. Right, well then that is reassuring. So, as I say, apologies. This was supposed to be live last week, but I had to change my plans. Similarly, I had to change my plans for the GW Book Club as well. That's going to be the end of this month, where I'll be going through Ian Watson's Chaos Child and talking about that book and sort of finishing the Box Tree series of books. But tonight, it's 40k, 11th edition, trying to make head and tails of the 11th edition core rules. So obviously Games Workshop have published those core rules for free online, which I think is fantastic. That is the PDF that I've got up here. I'm just going to be stepping through it, trying to understand it, trying to link it back to my ancient knowledge of 40k rules. I'm pretty confident I won't remember very much. So I've been thinking about this for the last few days, trying to confirm which was the last edition I played. I definitely played a load of 6th edition. I think I played 7th and 8th, but I think that might be it. I'm very confident I've not played 10th. And I don't think I played 9th edition either. But even then, even if I had, unless I play a game like really frequently, week on week, I tend to find that a lot of the rules sort of slip out of my mind. So I don't know if other folks get this. I know there's a lot of people who just have really good minds for rules, and they're able to just retain it. There are some folks who I know that will just sit down and play a classic game, remember everything. I played at Bring Out Your Lead last year. Me and Chris, who runs Ontos Games, we actually used to go to the same Games Workshop back in the day. We went to the same school, the same Games Workshop, and we will have played a load of 2nd and 3rd edition 40k, and we got the chance at Bring Out Your Lead to play a game of 2nd edition, an amazing table, absolutely awesome. And he remembered all the rules, he remembered all the stats for everything. I couldn't remember anything. I remember the sort of shape of the rules, if this makes sense. Molly, let's learn together. Absolutely, totally agree. But yeah, I remember the shape of the rules, the kind of feel, the broad sort of thing of the rules. But the specifics, they always just sort of leave me quite a lot. So yeah, it's something I struggle with a fair amount, unless I'm playing a lot. Or, there are some games, obviously, that are like that have really ingrained themselves in my mind that I can remember very, very, very clearly. Or some games when you sit down and you have the dice or the books or the cards or the miniatures in front of you, and it all comes flooding back. I don't know if that's going to be the case here, so I guess we'll find out. Chris stumbled into the stream, curious to find out if there's a friendly edition for getting back into the modern 40k games. Usually play only 2nd and 3rd edition. Yeah, I mean, those are the editions that I think back to a lot. I've played later editions, but when I reflect on 40k and think about 40k, really, I'm sort of reaching back to those, I think, more often than not. Stoney, last edition you played had Imperial Fists or Crimson Fists on the cover, so will be a fair while ago then. I take it. But yeah, the core rules available for free, so I think that's great. So, we start with the standard sort of the very evocative, amazing text. In the grim darkness of the far future, humanity teeters upon the brink of extinction. The galaxy-spanning Imperium, beset on all sides by ravening aliens, foul traitors, and warp-spawned demons, looks once more to its greatest heroes to stave off the encroaching darkness. There is no time for peace, no respite, no forgiveness. There is only war. Fantastic stuff. Always a great start. Some variation on that. Always a brilliant place to begin a 40k rule set. I remember that very well, so that's good. So I think there's it's 89 pages for the sort of core rules. I know there's a lot of stuff in here that we won't probably get to and won't get into the specifics. I've got the Space Marine faction pack downloaded as well, which I might take a quick look at once we've been through the core rules here. But yeah, there's basic rules. I think that should be relatively simple. I'm hoping that's not changed all that much. And then there's a lot of specifics around stratagems and objectives and other noodly bits that I think are probably going to be a little bit more complicated. But I don't think 40k's ever been too complicated. Maybe. I can't really remember. I don't remember it being difficult to learn too much back in the day. But then maybe my mind was more pliable and I was able to absorb it more quickly. I think that probably was the case when I was younger. I think also playing it and learning it with people in the stores, playing the games more frequently, going to clubs and games nights and stuff like that. You just get used to it more, right? You absorb it a lot more. I think a lot of people these days will do some of that. You'll still absorb it through watching, I don't know, various online stuff and YouTube videos and things of that nature, right? So there's that kind of stuff. Molly restarted Mordheim a few years back and remarkably remembered near on everything within the game. That's great. Yeah, that's really fun. Well done. And yeah, I agree. Where's the laughter of hungry gods? Yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting. I was interesting that they talk more about the heroes as well. So, maybe the Space Marines getting a little bit in the front there. Mezzo, hello, mate. Good to have you here. Playing at the GW Narrative event in August, so I'm hoping Jordan teaches me a robust understanding of 11th. Please do not base your game event success on my teaching, because that is a recipe for disaster, my friend, and I can only apologize in advance, because this is not going to be where you're going to learn the rules. This is not... yeah, don't rely on me here. Okay, we've got introduction, we've got basic rules. I think that's probably going to be the key stuff, battle round and such. So let's jump in. Beautiful stuff. Very nice to see folks playing the game. Introduction, I think, will be probably standard stuff. I don't know. We need to go too much into that. Obviously, there's the app, which I think has got some... Well, I suppose it's got the core rules in it, but does it have specific stuff for armies? I can't remember. I don't know. I'm not sure how they approach it these days. Yeah, Battlefield, that's all good. Basic rules. Right. So this should be relatively simple, right? Armies are armies. Units and models are units and models. Friendly units and models versus enemy units and models. That's all standard. Active player and opposing player. That's fine. So this is whoever's turn it is the active player and their opponent is the opposing player. When it's neither player's turn, the player who takes the first turn in each battle round is the active player. Okay. That's fine. I think what's interesting with this kind of construction of the rules and the way these things are written out these days is a lot more... I think that you can feel that there's a bit more... I don't want to say legal ease, but there's that kind of sense of this might be something people could argue about, so let's be really specific. And I think that you've seen that come through... I think CCGs used to do that an awful lot. I think with organised play and tournaments, it's way more relevant today as well. So there's a lot more specificity in these kinds of, the language, the specific references to, what is an active player versus an opposing player, because that's going to be relevant to specific rules later on. Which I think in some ways makes things easier to learn. In some ways it can make it a little bit more complicated because you end up, there's a potential to get too into the weeds on some of it. like, I mean, we'll probably come to it, but I think there was one of the sort of preview slides on some of the movement into combat seemed a little bit complicated, perhaps more complicated than it needed to be, because it was in that legalese sort of language. But here, it's fine. Each time a unit is selected to move, that unit's controlling player is the active player until the move ends. Each time a unit is selected to shoot or selected to fight, they're the active player. That's great. Okay. Measuring distances. You can measure whenever you want to. Great. Measure to the closest part of the model's base. That's all fine. Dice. That's all fine. Leadership rolls. 2d6. Equal to or greater than one or more of the leadership characteristics in that unit, the roll succeeds. Otherwise, the roll fails. The rule that instructs you to make a leadership roll describe the effects of that roll succeeding or failing. Yep, that's fine. When was it less than leadership? Was that ever the case? Have I imagined that? Did it not? Did it ever used to be? I must have imagined that. That can't be right, can it? Or can it? If the result is equal to or greater than one or more of the leadership characteristics in the unit. Was it in Warhammer that it was less than? I forget. Goodness, I'm going to have to go back and check that. Yeah, this doesn't bode well, I don't think. Okay, but in 11th edition, equal to or greater is a successful leadership roll. Battle Shock. You just do a leadership roll as usual. If the unit succeeds, they are not battle shocked. That's fine. When they're battle shocked, they have a objective control characteristic of nothing. And the controlling player cannot target that unit with stratagems and is ineligible to start an action and cannot complete an action. Okay, that's fine. Chris, always fun to see these staged pictures where a player throw dice on top of your minis, for instance. Sure. Yeah, although I imagine it's very tough to get like a good-looking in-action picture for this kind of stuff, so I can't blame them too much. Dominic, it was lower through to 8th edition. Okay. Right, well, that makes sense then. If 8th edition is the last edition I played, then that does make sense. Okay, well, then so I'm not totally out there. Tyrion. Have I started painting the figures yet? Asking the real questions, my friend. I have not. I'm waiting. So at the moment, I've not got that many figures yet. I've got the Terminators, and I've got some Scouts, but I haven't got all of the Scouts that I'm going to be getting. I don't want to start with the Terminators, because I feel like I want them to look best, maybe. So I might start with the Scouts, and we'll see where we get to from there. And 9th. Okay, so they changed it relatively recently then. Leadership tests. Yeah, darker. Yeah, Chris. So darker days were always less than up to 8th edition. Yeah, it is weird to flip from the higher stat is better, where you compare stats to know what to roll, versus now being roll high to succeed when we no longer compare things. Yeah, it is curious. I guess I'll see that when I start looking at the actual stats of the units as well. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, but apart from that, everything seems pretty standard so far. Leadership, Battle Shock, all good. So the data sheets, just explaining how they work. Characteristics are move, toughness, save, invulnerable save, wounds, leadership, objective control. Okay. I can't remember when objective control came in, but this is not the first time I've encountered it. I think do they have that in Age of Sigmar? No, you don't, do you? Yes, you do. Because you do have oh no, you just do it by the number of eligible models around the objective, don't you, in Age of Sigmar? So an objective control statistic. Maybe I haven't used them. We'll find out. Abilities. Weapons have range, attacks, ballistic skill, weapon skill, and strength, and armor penetration, and damage. Okay, I stopped with the list a little bit early. And then keywords in bold as well. Okay, so that's all good. That's interesting. So the weapon has the ballistic skill and the weapon skill now? So your actual Space Marine doesn't have a weapon skill or a ballistic skill. It is their weapon that has the skill ratings. Am I reading that right? I mean, I guess that's fine. Interesting to me. And obviously, invulnerable save as a standard statistic. Okay, fair enough. Not a problem. We'll just have to see how it all comes together. Heresy still passes checks by rolling lower or equal to. Isn't that interesting then that you'd retain it for Heresy? I wonder why they switched it for 40k. I wonder if there's something psychological around rolling higher is better. So like you always want to, like, maybe they like it that players get excited when you're rolling high, so you want everything to be rolling high. So that there's a sense of consistency there. Although it always seemed to work well enough for me. But, you know, I come from a different era in that case. Okay, so data sheets is all fine. Yes, okay. So it does, yeah, I mean, yeah, and Chris, it's more like iOS now. It does, yeah. The model profile is not like in Necromunda. No, it's interesting because obviously that you have fewer stats for the actual model itself. Kind of reminds me of the sort of Warhammer Quest, modern Warhammer Quest profiles. Middle-earth changed it to roll higher as well, Bastian. Okay. Macro. AOS has been like an experimental field for 40k for like 2 editions. I'm not mad. This causes an issue with a mechanic that uses leadership as courage. Okay, that's interesting. Have they not, and they didn't change that? They didn't alter that to reflect the new way of doing it in Middle-earth? That's interesting. But yeah, that's all fine. Infantry units, keyword, Warger options, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Orc boys, move, toughness, save, wounds, leadership, objective control. And then they've got various weapons with a ballistic skill, strength, AP, and damage. Easy enough. Weapon skill for melee weapons, ballistic skill for ranged weapons. Okay. Bastion, sorry, toughness. They did with Blades of the Dead. It just makes it weirder. Okay. All right. Sounds like, it, yeah, curious stuff happening over there then. Moving. Several types of move a unit can make. Each one defines which units are eligible to make it, maximum distance or setup distance. Conditions must be met. Okay, unless otherwise stated, you can't move through friendly models. You can move through friendly models. You can move through any space the base can fit through. You can't move through enemy models. You can't cross the edge of the battlefield. And all stated while moving conditions must be met. Okay, easy enough. Each time you move a model in a straight line, that's all fine, standard stuff. Rotating a model, turn it any amount at the center of the base while keeping it upright. Note that rotating a model does not count towards the distance it has moved. Okay, great stuff. Ending a move. You have to be in unit coherency still. You can't be part way onto another model or a terrain feature, and after moving conditions must be met. Fine. So that's pretty much the same. Okay, yeah. So some nice conditions. Vehicles also move in the same way. So that's fine. Move, you can rotate. Okay. Again, I mean, I guess this is really important in tournament play when it sort of, I don't want to say it matters more, but I imagine it's more contentious in a way. I guess in a casual setting, fudging a move slightly, balancing a model on top of something else in order for ease of play and convenience. That's kind of how we've always played it in my groups, at my tables. No, but no one's kind of that precious about winning, ultimately. We like to win, obviously, but it also, you want to win not because you were able to spot someone fudged a sort of couple of centimeters on a move. It's you want to win because your strategy was better and your dice rolls were luckier and your army list was smarter, that kind of stuff. Fion, the new rules are not in a great state even by present-day GW standards. I mean, that's a shame if that's the case. Borbicus, the rules are made up and the points don't matter. Well, ultimately, you're completely right, and I agree. I do. I mean, I think having a framework of rules that everybody agrees to at the start of a game, that's important. It makes sure like everyone can have fun and knows how this thing works and knows what they're sort of expected from them. So I obviously I believe in rules. I think rules are important for games. But I think the ultimate, for me at least, it's more about using the rules to enable the fun. The fun for me doesn't come from like rules lawyering or being sort of overly slavish to them. I think they're important, and you don't want people cheating. That's obviously no fun. But you also don't want to penalise someone because they, picked up a piece and then changed their mind and actually don't want to move that and they put it back down. That's fine to me. But that's why you also want to make sure that in any game you're playing, especially a game like 40k, you and your opponent are on the same page, right? If you want to play really strictly by the rules, that's great, absolutely fine. As long as both players are on that page, that's brilliant. If you're sort of a bit more lenient, then that's all cool too. Rictus. Well, all this matters not for I'm still paying second edition. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, it's it is what you make of it. I think it's all fine, really, isn't it? Ultimately, I think the rules are important in that we all want to be playing the same game, and we know what we're attempting to do. I suppose. Setup looks the same. Coherency, unengaged. Any other requirements and restrictions are met. You could do strategic reserves or put them in a transport. Coherence is just that they're within 2 inches horizontally, 5 inches vertically. And then also within 9 inches horizontally of every other model in the unit. That's interesting then. So Did it always used to have that restriction as well? Obviously, unit coherency has been a thing for a very long time. Could you not just have like a string of guys? Is this to prevent the sort of croup lines and all that sort of business that was out there? I wonder. But yeah, that's all fine. At the end of a turn, if you're out of coherency, players must remove models from them one at a time until they are in coherency again. Models removed in this way are destroyed. Okay, so if you're out of coherency, you have to lose the model? That's interesting. That's quite extreme. That's really extreme, no? That seems quite a punishment. It used to be, I'm sure, that you could move back in. You had to, in your next turn, move back into coherency. That was like the priority for you. I mean, I guess, again, it prevents abuse of these rules. And Mezzo, the 9-inch rule is new to stop the conga lines. Right, fair enough. Darker Days, Chris. I was watching Hellstorm Mikey's review of the rules, and there are a few weird things. I'm actually considering getting the Eldari Combat Patrol for a second Ed army. Well, if you do get a second Ed army, maybe we'll play a game at some point, mate. Because, I want to make sure I can play 11th and 2nd. Very eager for my Space Marines. I think I'll probably end up playing more 2nd in the long run, but I do want to play some 11th because I want to, see how the game, like, what is 40k today? Like, I think it's very interesting to realise, like, I still am familiar with the world. Obviously, I'm familiar with the history. Obviously, I'm familiar with, like, a lot of the broader stuff that's happening in there. But when I hear a conversation about the game itself, sometimes I can find myself a bit bewildered and sort of quite distant from it because those rules have shifted, things have changed over the years since I've been playing it. I've had my Tau army for probably 20 years, but they haven't actually taken to the field in, a fair amount of time. So the actual, like, day-to-day gaming, it has moved on from where I last was when it comes to 40k. So that's why I'm excited to be doing this, to be looking at this sort of stuff. But all of this seems fine. yeah, I mean, no more daisy chaining with the new coherency rules. It does seem quite brutal. I think you're right, Molly. It seems quite an extreme response. But I suppose it's one of those things that does get abused or could get abused quite dramatically. So fair enough. Everybody knows, don't end the turn out of coherency. Although, if you're able to target a specific model, like I don't know if this is possible, but with a psychic power or some sort of sniper or whatever, or you get lucky and you take out a model in the middle of a unit, surely that could result in losing coherency for some of the models on the end of the unit, so that you're actually going to get a load of bonus kills, like by the end of the turn. You won't necessarily score any points or whatever for them, but they'll be destroyed nonetheless. So that could be quite important, I would have thought. Yeah, the unit could just regain coherency and lost other actions but didn't take damage. Yeah, I feel like that was the case, right? So there you go, okay. Substreamer pointed out that you can somewhat get around strings out with small units. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess, maybe this actually encourages you to take smaller units? Because you're, like I say, you're not going to want anybody out of coherency, and the larger a squad, the more likely you are to be out of coherency, potentially. I don't know if I'm imagining that. I don't know if I've worked that out correctly. Jesus, no psychic powers? Okay. Oh, no. Tell us, by having 2 models on one objective and then 2 models 9 inches away, and that's how you can do the sort of smaller units. Fion, you don't think these coherency rules are going to make sense then? That's interesting. Okay. Engagement. A model's engagement range is the area of the battlefield within 2 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically. Martha is just making a presence known to me on the desk. So she was all on my keyboard there. So that was lucky we didn't lose the whole stream. She's lying down. I tell you what, let's see if this works. Let's see if this actually works. There's Martha for you all. She's come for a little lie down. This, by the way, is where Martha likes to be when I'm trying to write scripts for the channel. This is her favourite spot. And she loves to just come and be a little pudding on the desk, chilling out. So there you go. Okay, engagement. She is a perfect bungus. And yeah, Martha Cam, Zingbo, absolutely. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. Martha doesn't care too much about the engagement rules or the coherency rules, though. And thank you, Tellus. Models engagement, yes, that's fine. That seems to be the same as it used to be, as far as I'm aware. Not a problem. I've always had an issue, and I'm sure this will be the case in this edition. I've always had an issue with pylons. They've always annoyed me. It's just one of those things that was always frustration. But let's see how that works when we get to it. Okay, coherency. Every model is blah, blah, blah. That's all fine. What happens when you've got a unit of 5 and if you've got a squad of 5 and the dude in the middle gets killed, so now you've got two sets of 2, and if they are over 9 inches away from each other, are they all dead? Like, what counts as the sort of the squad? Does that make sense? So if you've got a squad of 5 and there's 3 guys and 2 guys, presumably the 3 guys are the squad and the 2 guys are out of coherency. If you've got a squad of 2 and 2, who is the squad and who is out of coherency? Does that make sense? Maybe I'm overthinking it. Probably am. Making attacks. We've made it. Okay. Select weapons while shooting, while fighting. So this is okay, yeah, because obviously you have to use your specific weapon, that gives you your ballistic skill or your weapon skill. That's fine. Psychic spells are all guns now, basically. Okay. Okay, well, that sounds slightly less fun, but I suppose not the end of the world. They should never be more than 9 inches away from any other model in the unit. So you're saying, tell us that they would all be forfeit then, if they're all scattered. I don't know if I'm making sense, but if you had 5 Space Marine Terminators, and every one of those 5 Terminators was 10 inches away from another Terminator, are all 5 of them out of coherency, so all 5 of them are destroyed? Mezzo, if you have a squad of 2 and 2, but both 2 are 9 inches away, when you remove one of them, you will lose their buddy because they aren't within 2 inches of a buddy anymore, and the rules to stop you from doing that. Okay, so you just pick one side and then remove them, and that's what you're saying as well, Chris, right? Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So you select your weapon, then you select your targets when shooting. Select one enemy unit to be targeted with the weapon. Visible, within range, unengaged. So you can't shoot into combat. That is fine. Tell us, indeed, but they shouldn't scatter so far away in the first place. That would be the peak of silliness. Absolutely, but you never know. I might have some wild tactics, some big plans, getting the Terminators to all infiltrate 10 inches away from each other. Or I could just be that bad at the game. It's possible. So that's all fine in terms of choosing targets. No worries. While fighting, each target must be engaged. Yeah, so you have to, in melee combat, you have to attack an engaged target that you are attacking. You cannot select more target than the weapon's attack characteristic. Fine. Resolving attacks. Select an enemy unit. Gather your attack dice, which is the number of d6 equal to the weapon's attack characteristic. These are the attack dice. Each one represents one attack being made by an attacking model with that weapon. Okay, they're identical attacks. So you can roll those together across the squad. That's fine. You resolve the attack dice, you roll them, follow the attack sequence, and then make other attacks. Okay. So this is new to me. Mezzo, does scatter still exist? I thought it had gone with the templates, but could be wrong. No, I'm just using the word scatter. I don't think, as far as I'm aware, the scatter dice are long gone, aren't they? I don't think they're about anymore. And yeah, converting the psychic powers over the last edition for the Space Wolves to Wrath and Glory was a challenge because everything was just a glorified gun. Had to go looking for other interesting things in old codexes. I imagine it would be a challenge. Yeah. Yeah, and I miss I mean, conceptually, Psychers battling it out and casting spells, that's fun. I like that. I mean, I like magic in Warhammer, so, you know, I'm unsurprisingly quite like psychic attacks as well. But yeah, it's a bit simpler. That's fine. You can split melee attacks if you want. You just have to declare where they're being attacked, who you're attacking. That is fine as well. What do we have here? If there are any weapons targets in the same unit that have not yet been used to make attacks, return to the gather attack dice step. Otherwise, if there are any weapons with unresolved attacks targeting a different unit, return to the select enemy unit step. Otherwise, if all weapons have been used to make all of their attacks, this sequence ends and the attacking unit's attacks have been resolved. Fine. So the attack sequence. We've gathered up our attack dice because we've got however many attacks. We're going to roll to hit. We're going to do hit rolls, then wound rolls, then save rolls, and then inflict damage. That's all sort of standard, right? Make one hit roll for each attack dice by rolling 1d6. If it's an unmodified 1, it fails. If it's an unmodified 6, it's a critical hit. And it is a hit otherwise if it is equal to or greater than the attack's ballistic skill or weapon skill characteristic. Any other result is a fail. Okay. I'm just going to go back to that Orc Knob, or boys and Boss Knob. So, custom shooter is 4 attacks at ballistic skill 5+. So you're grabbing your 4 dice, you're rolling to hit at 5+. Right. Okay. So it does, yeah, I mean, I think you're right when you say that it's a bit more like Age of Sigmar, in that you have the specific characteristic, that the characteristic is the dice roll, right? You're saying roll a 5+. So you're not, as you say, you're not comparing it to anything. You're not doing my weapon skill, or my my weapon skill versus your weapon skill, or strength versus toughness. Oh no, you are still doing strength versus toughness, but you're not doing the same sort of like working out what the to hit is based on a little chart. It's just telling you what the to hit dice roll is going to be, which I suppose is fine. Wounds, still rolling your d6. Unmodified 1 is a fail. Unmodified 6 is a critical wound. Equal to or greater than the required result below is a wound. And that is, if the strength is twice or more than twice the toughness, it's 2+. If it's greater than toughness, it's 3+. If it's equal to toughness, it's 4+. If it's less than the toughness, it's 5+. And if it's half or less than half of the toughness, it's 6+. And any other result is a fail. Okay, so that's fine. That all makes sense. Interesting. Obviously, critical fails, critical wounds. I suppose that's a very popular term, generally. I think that, I mean, I don't know when that came in. I think unmodified 1s being fails has long been a rule, right? But I don't know that critical wounds on a 6 have long been a rule, but I could be forgetting. And yeah, so that's orcs with a ballistic skill of 2 in old money, yeah. Firstly, 2 inches from one other and 9 for the first group. Okay, so on the coherency point, models and units must be 2 inches of other models in the unit. No models can be further than 9 inches. All the models in the unit. Yeah, okay. Okie doke. I think you need the critical keyword for critical wounds to matter. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting then. Oh, I quite like that. Yes, critical hits, critical wounds. They're still hits, still wounds, and they are triggered by a critical hit or critical wound trigger word like lethal hits or devastating wounds. Okay, yes, that's better then. That makes more sense. I didn't read that bit, so thank you for pointing it out. Okay, save rolls. Create groups. 1 group for each character, 1 group for all the models with the same wounds, saves, and invulnerable saves. Allocate the wounds. If a non-character group contains a model that has lost 1 or more wounds, that group must be first in allocation. No character can be allocated earlier than a non-character. That's standard. Character groups containing a model that has lost 1 or more wounds will be allocated earlier than character groups containing no wounded models. Then make save rolls. Okay. And you just roll a d6. And then you take a look at your stats, of course. And then you inflict damage. Opposing player resolves the sequence for each save roll, working from the lowest result to the highest result until all attacks are resolved or all models in the target unit are destroyed. Fine. Select a model in the current allocation that has lost 1 or more wounds, if possible. Check their save roll. For each result, check if that attack inflicts damage or fails by matching the first condition below. Unmodified 1, it inflicts damage. If it is lower... invulnerable save, the models in the current allocation group have invulnerable characteristic and the result is equal to or greater than the characteristic, then the inflict damage fails. After modifying the result by the attacking weapon's AP characteristic, it is equal to or greater than the save characteristic of the models in the current allocation group. Fails. Any other result inflicts damage. Okay. Right, that's all fine to me. It is a way... In terms of the layout, I find this really interesting. Because actually it is quite nice. It's quite clear and it's quite specific. Which is helpful in the long run, I think. even having the sort of commentary on the right hand side is quite cool. Like as a way of helping you to sort of learn the specific rules. That's all quite good. But then you also get this really interesting thing where like now, so you don't just go, you don't just roll to save, and if you get equal to or over your save, you've saved. Now you have to do all that. They suggest that you do all of these allocations and groups, and then you check the roll against the save, and like it's much more, because obviously this is the like, let's make sure no one can argue about it. That they've had to lay it out really very clearly. So you sort of move away from it just being like, you don't interpret it. You're not just like, okay, so I need to do this and then that and then the other. It's like, that specificity is quite, I suppose it's quite helpful. It just means you have to read a bit more and then work through it a little bit more, I suppose. Zingbo, I think the critical hits and wounds came in with 10th edition. They're mainly relevant with rules like sustained hits and devastating wounds. Okay, that makes sense. And Fion, how much of this will be scrapped by next week, I wonder? I don't know. I mean, they must have spent a long time on it, right? And none of it so far seems that unreasonable. Like it all seems perfectly fine, really. I think there's an interestingness, if for want of a better word, like coming at it from older, like much older editions, seeing how much closer to Age of Sigmar it is. And like Age of Sigmar has a load of smart choices to make it much simpler. For example, the attack values, and just you have to roll this 4+ or 3+ or whatever. So like that is very, helpful, because you don't then have to consult charts, you don't have to consult tables. It's right there for you, which does make sense and is very beneficial. And they've obviously absorbed that into 40k as well. It just maybe there's a certain, I don't know what the word is. I'm not sure what the word is. I mean, Chris, you're saying more procedural in description, which I think is very fair. Absolutely, you're quite right. That is a good way to describe it. I guess it's more clinical in a way as well, which again isn't a problem. It's just different to how I used to read these books and interpret these rules. But yeah, so you've done your damage, you've rolled your saves. If you failed those, you inflict the damage equal to the attack damage characteristic. If this reduces that model's remaining wounds to 0 or fewer, it is destroyed. Okay. Fair enough. I think we get that. I think that's okay. So I'm okay with that. There's some good examples here. I don't think I need to work through those right now. I think this is going to be one of those ones where, of course, it's sort of fine when you play it on the table and you see it happening, and then there you go. Would I say it's less simulationist? Anvil, good question. Hello. I mean, it seems so far it's totally fine. Obviously, there's a level of abstraction, which has always been a part of the thing. I guess it's not. I think when you see the move rules are kind of trying to split the difference, right? You can rotate as much as you want. You can move forward and do this and that and the other. But it's all kind of... what's the right way of phrasing it? Yeah, I don't know. It is less simulationist so far, I think, in a way. Because it's not trying to actually simulate anything real. But I don't know if I'm being unfair there. Let's get to the end and we'll reflect, I suppose. Okay, allocation groups, that's all fine. Streamlined, certainly. Yeah, obviously there's like, let's just make it really... That procedural point is a really good one. Let's make it a very quick and clear procedure that's repeatable. Everybody knows how you do it. Bang, 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 bang. Which has always been the case. The rules for 2nd edition 40k are procedural, but they've kind of like... They've removed any of the sort of rough edges, I guess. It's very smooth to make it sort of play as quick and painlessly as possible. which sounds like it's a good thing. I wonder if you can lose some character. You know, do the sorts of knots and bumps and foibles bring character? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. They just bring frustration. But yeah, interesting to see. Yeah, and Anvil, no criticism intended. Completely understand. Obviously, no addition, as far as I know, is particularly simulationist as such, but still, no comparing weapon skill, for example, means there's no simulating the effect of the difference in the skill of combatants, at least in that particular regard. Yeah, I guess it's an abstraction, right? Because you're simplifying a lot of these things, and because you're not comparing stuff, and because you're just going, it's really interesting, and I don't know why it strikes me as strange, but like having the stats on the weapon instead of on the user of the weapon, I think I need to reflect on that, because I'm not sure what that tells me, but that tells me something. That tells me something about the design principles, because I don't know, it seems almost more video gamey, maybe, where you move to like, well, I've picked up this, like my guy has picked up this gun, so now has this ability, and it's about the gun and not the like person holding the gun, which is fine. It's certainly, it's not a problem. It's just, it feels different to me for some reason, and I'm not certain what that is. I'm not certain whether it's a good thing or a bad thing either. I don't know. It might just be it's slightly different. It's a slightly different way of doing it. So, yeah. So you could have -1 to ballistic skill, and you have to roll higher, and a +1 to the dice. Okay, worth noting there are modifiers in the game that modify the stat, and some that modify the roll. Okay, I get you. Tell us, indeed, you can easily be much harder to hit now. And I think if you play semi-regularly, you probably don't need the rulebook out very often in Modern 40k. At Heresy events, we are always getting the rulebooks out. Right, okay. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine this rule set, based on what I've seen so far, it I think will probably flow quite well, and I think it's a seamless game to play, certainly in a tournament setting, but also in a casual setting. You're not going to have to sweat the rules as much. It feels like it already feels that way. Like it's been designed to be less thorny, I suppose. Yeah, for better and for worse, I'm sure. Second edition got very time-consuming when resolving combat. So, to be fair, making it more streamlined will make it easier to pick up. I think you're dead right on that. Yeah, I think that's completely true. Anvil, can the same weapon have different stats on different units? Bolters hit on a 4+ on regular Marines, 3+ on veteran Marines. I'm assuming so. I have not seen evidence of this yet, but I would assume so, right? Because you're not going to want it to be like, oh, this is a intercessor bolter, and that's different to a veteran sergeant bolter. Like, so you must just be, when these guys carry this gun, it has a ballistic skill of this, and when these guys carry this gun, it has a ballistic skill of that. I assume so. I think the character is lost with the stats of the weapons being all in one pot, because the same weapon now in the hands of different models effectively are different things. Right, so yeah, so it is different then. Okay. The thing about the old stat line is more RPG-like in that it defines a character's abilities and adds weapons equipment to that. The current stat line feels more like more practical for a war game. That is certainly true, and I think it's a fair challenge to all Warhammer Fantasy and 40k designs of old. The roots from which it was born as, historical wargaming and role-playing influenced how the rules were designed, and then that rules engine was sort of modified and evolved and changed, but not that significantly for a long time. So, yeah, if you're ground up saying, let's flip leadership because it makes it easier for people to intuit what a good role is, I think that's probably fair enough. It's kind of difficult, isn't it, when you're thinking, what do we want to retain for the sake of retaining it, because it's tradition and because that's the way we've always done it, versus changing it is actually better in the long run, despite a bit of short-term pain. So I can kind of see both sides. I think it's going to be in the proof will be in the playing, as they say. Like actually getting it on the table, I think, is where it's going to come out and sort of feel how it feels to me, at least. And I know my opinion is going to be totally rooted in my own experience and how often I play this and how often I've played other games. So actually, my opinion on these rules is probably going to be unhelpful for pretty much anybody, especially the designers, because I'm not really the target market for it, because I'm not going to be playing this game week in, week out, 3 or 4 times a week. I just don't have the time to play that often, even if I wanted to. So, I'm going to be a casual player, and actually, these streamlined rules will probably make casual play a lot easier. I've played a fair bit in more recent times of like Age of Sigmar and one-page rules, both pretty streamlined, pretty easy to get to the table, very low cognitive load at the table. So actually, that's quite good. Where Age of Sigmar I think gets complicated, and where I suspect 40k 11th edition will get complicated, is when you get into every unit has special abilities, every detachment has special abilities, every general has special abilities, there are stratagems, there are things you can activate and do every single game. All of that adds quite a lot of complexity, if only because you have to remember it all. Like, you have to be, what do these guys do in this situation? Do they have an ability for that? I need to check all of my stats every single turn. Which, again, is because I don't play very often. I'm sure when you play a lot, you're like, well, I know these guys are going to be able to do that when it's relevant. So, yeah. Isn't the same as Horus Heresy Power Fists, Thunderhammers having negative weapon skill modifiers in the same way they will have a worse weapon skill than 40k? I haven't looked at Horus Heresy much, so I could be wrong. I'm not sure, Pritters. I do not know. All the relevant data for a particular situation is clumped together, Zingbo. Right. Unlike 2nd edition, where a bolt gun is a bolt gun and is the same. I see. Yeah, so the thing that differentiates it is the skills and the stats of the models using it in 2nd edition. I do miss the character of some weapons, such as the shock attack gun. I mean, I think, yeah, that world of just wild and wonderful rules for very unique weaponry and fantastical sort of stuff and whimsical nonsense. I don't know how much of that's still here. I'm excited to find out. Yeah, so modern 40k is less like an RPG, certainly. Mezzo, your bad analogy is Heresy is StarCraft, 40k is Dota. Okay, I can imagine that. That sort of makes sense to me. 2nd edition 40k close combat was painful. Necromunda is a bit of halfway house with how things are done. In modern Necromunda. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of thorny edges in modern Necromunda, I would say. Not aided by the fact that you need to be across however many books at any given time. Yeah. Certainly less like an RPG as compared to Rogue Trader. 2nd edition started down the road away from RPG type gaming. I think you're right, mate. Yeah, it did. Streamline rules make it easier to play for us weekend warriors. That seems to be key with this edition. Yeah, I can completely believe that. And I think, like I say, I actually probably will benefit from this. So the reason I'm so eager to read the rules is that for my regular opponents, I have agreed that I will do the heavy rules lifting with this. So I'm going to be teaching them how to play. So actually, it's beneficial to me that it's simpler. And yeah, hopefully I'm able to retain these rules and they don't just slip out of my brain as soon as we've finished this evening. Other concepts. Okay. Line of sight. For an observing model to play out, line of sight must be possible to draw an imaginary straight line 1 millimeter wide from any part of the model to any part of the model being observed. Okay. So, yeah, a bit of true line of sight. Other models and units can be visible or fully visible to the observing model, as shown opposite. Okay. Mortal wounds. Each time a unit suffers 1 or more mortal wounds, its controlling player must resolve the following sequence for each of the mortal wounds until either all of them have been inflicted or the unit is destroyed. Okay, select model. If it's non-character model that has lost 1 or more wounds, you must select that model. Okay, so the allocation rules are the same. Yep, so all the allocation stuff is the same. The selected model loses 1 wound. If this reduces that model's remaining wounds to 0, it is destroyed. When resolving attack dice, if those attacks inflict a mixture of both mortal wounds and normal damage, resolve all of the normal damage first, then resolve the mortal wounds. Okay, so the mortal wounds, this is the same as in AOS, right? So that you don't get a save. Do you still get an invulnerable save? Does anybody know if you get an invulnerable save for mortal wounds? Hazard rolls. To make a hazard roll for a unit, roll 1d6. On a 1 or 2, that roll fails and the unit suffers 1 mortal wound or 3 mortal wounds instead, if each model in the unit is a monster or vehicle. Okay. Yeah, and hazard rolls on terrain and such. I take it. Okay. So that's all fine. No problems with that. Some lovely Eldar chaps. The battle round. Okay, so the basic rules complete. And none of it was that bad. As in, difficult. Pridders, no invulnerable, but you do get feel no pain, a ward save in AOS. Okay. Okay. Zingbo, I think I found the core rules for 10th to be quite easy to grasp. The complexity in modern 40k seems to be in understanding how to combine special abilities, detachments, and strategies together. Okay. And yeah, Telos, only feel no pains can stop mortals. Mortals also don't spill over. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, Zingbo, that's the sense I really get, is that it becomes more complicated when you introduce stratagems and all of the unit abilities and all of these different special abilities on top of one another. Like there's a sort of game within a game of deploying all of these different abilities at the right time, all of that kind of stuff. Which we'll find out now. Start of battle round, player turns, end of battle round. Okay. At the start of the battle round, players resolve rules that are triggered at the start of the battle round before progressing to player turns. Then you take 1 turn each. The same player always takes the first turn in each battle round. The mission you are playing will tell you which player this is. And then you flip to the other player taking their turn. Each turn consists of 7 parts. Okay. And then end of battle round. Trigger a load of rules at the end of battle round. First resolve rules triggered at this point other than mission rules. Then consult your mission. Fine. Okay, so again, a real... It's like I remember buying Magic the Gathering and sitting in the back of a small office waiting for my parents to finish work and trying to read the rule book. Do you remember the tiny little Magic the Gathering rule books you used to get? And it was like my first card game I'd ever played, the first time I was ever seeing these rules and trying to learn these rules. And it had all of the different sort of first one in, first one out, the actual sequencing of a turn. It was quite complicated at the time. Obviously, Warhammer's always had that as well. But like, it really blew my mind just trying to work out when you played certain abilities and like how they interacted and all that sort of stuff. So I guess this clarity is helpful. Right, so in a player turn, you have the start of turn step, then the command phase, then the movement, shooting, charge, and then the fight phase, and the end of turn. Why do you think we got rid of the word melee? So we've still got melee weapons, but why is it a fight phase instead of a melee phase, do we think? And I've been told I mispronounced that word as well, so maybe that's why they wanted to take it easy on me. Right, in the command phase, you gain your command points. Both players gain 1. Command points are a valuable resource you can spend to use stratagems. Okay. Battle shock. So now you make your battle shock units for each unit in the army that fulfills one or both of the following conditions. It's already been battle shocked, or it's at or below half strength. Okay. Oh, imagine that size booklet, but reading the rules for Rackham's confrontation. I dare not. But so your cool rules are out of date. They're missing the kissing phase. um, yeah, so that's Battle Shock. Command abilities, so rules that are triggered in the command phase. Okay, and then end of command phase. Okay, so yeah, you just do all your commandy point stuff in this phase, and then you check morale in Battle Shock. So that's all fine. Might be because you can still use some ballistic weapons such as pistols when melee implies pure hand-to-hand fighting. Yeah, that's very true. That's fair. That's a fair point. Zingbo, Warhammer games are bad for overloading words with multiple meanings. Wound is possibly the best example. Splitting melee into melee and fight mildly helps with this, maybe? Yeah, I mean, that's probably a fair shout as well. Okay, so we've got Battle Shock. That's fine. Movement. So you start the movement phase and then you move units. And of course, the specificity here, which is absolutely my word of the day, but is because some command abilities and stratagems and whatnots will literally say at the start of the movement phase. So there needs to be a little band that is, this is the start of the movement phase, but before we've moved any units. And then same again for the end of the movement phase. We now moved our units, and there's the end of the movement phase before you go on to the next phase. So that makes sense, and again, makes it nice and easy for this can be used at this particular point. So that's fine. Move is pretty standard, right? You can remain stationary as your move. Normal, you can advance, you can fall back, you can disembark, or you can ingress. Okay, so remain stationary, maximum distance is nothing. No models used, right? So this exists again, so you can say they have moved, but they did not move, right? They in the movement phase they moved to remain stationary. Okay. That's fine. Do not trigger any rules that are triggered when a unit starts or ends a move. Okay, normal move. So advanced move. Make an advanced roll by rolling 1d6. So that is just like a charge. A march. Fall back. If you're engaged, you can move out of combat. And there's a few options to do that. Okay. Oh, those are the other ones they're going to tell us about? Fine. Was there another one? Disembark and ingress. Right. To do with vehicles. So that's fine. Or buildings, I suppose, as well. Shooting phase. In the shooting phase, you can shoot. That's fine. Normal shooting. If you're unengaged and did not make an advance, you can shoot as described in the attack. Making attacks. That's all fine. Assault shooting. If you're unengaged and did make an advance move this turn, and you have an assault weapon. Okay. Close quarters shooting. You're engaged, you did not advance, and you have one or more close quarters weapons, or you're a monster/vehicle unit. Okay. And then indirect shooting. You're unengaged, you did not advance move this turn, and you have indirect fire weapons. Okay. So this will be your marker light missile attacks for the Tau and such, I assume. Yeah. Punishing barrages on targets that are not visible. But don't forget that its other weapons can still target other visible targets. Yes, okay. That's cool. Okay. Charging. In the charge phase, active player charges eligible units one at a time using the sequence below. You declare a charge. That unit cannot have declared a charge already, but has to be eligible to declare a charge, and then you declare a charge. And here are some rules that prevent a unit from being eligible to declare a charge. It is not within 12 inches of one or more enemy units. It's already engaged, or it made an advance or fall back this turn. Assuming you're eligible, you make a charge roll. Roll 2d6. The result is the maximum distance for the charge, and then you attempt the charge. If it is possible, you can make the charge, and if you still want to, you can make a charge move with the unit. Otherwise, your unit does not make a charge move. In either case, the charge is then resolved. So it's a failed charge. You don't move at all. fine. That's fine. Okay, and then we're into fights. I see talk of pistols and whether they're melee weapons. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been times when pistols were usable in melee combat, right? Fight phase involves moving, not just the melee part, maybe. I don't know, maybe it sounds more aggressive. Yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah. I suppose, yeah, because you're actually piling in at the start of the fight phase, you're right. So that is, it's not just melee combat. Pistols still get shot in the shooting phase, though, right? Has it even been called the melee phase at some point? My old rule book has an assault phase. Gosh. Yeah, is this where I'm going to be super embarrassed? I don't know if I've got 40k here. Oh, no, it's on a different shelf. So I cannot check. That's disappointing. Let's check in Necromunda and see if it was called the melee phase in here. No, it's called hand-to-hand combat in Necromunda. It must have been melee in Warhammer, though. Surely. Don't tell me I'm completely wrong at every level. Please. Oh, I can't get it back on the shelf. It's all going wrong. Right, let's take a look in this Warhammer rulebook. It's called Close Combat. Yeah. So has it never been the melee phase? Gosh. I don't know what I'm... Maybe that's just what we referred to it as. Goodness grief. Okay. I mean, this is exactly what I mean. This is what I mean. No rules. No rules stay in here. They've all got places to be. I feel like they didn't go far enough with 11th edition to make everything in the game an action like they did in AOS. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Everyone would love to use the phase pistol whipped. Yeah, check it. Second edition was hand-to-hand phase, combat phase in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Yeah, quite right. So I guess it could have been. I mean, I guess it's always been melee combat, but maybe it's just not been called that somewhere. It definitely shows up in the books for certain, because I learned that word from Warhammer. I mean, this is the thing, and I actually think about this, and I don't know if you folks find this as well, especially if you played a lot of Warhammer when you were younger. Like, I feel like my literacy and my numeracy owes so much to Warhammer. Like, I think I know most of the words I know today. Maybe not most, but a lot of the words that I know today because of playing Warhammer. Like, you just learn it from the rulebooks, from all this stuff. Loads of weird concepts, like melee. They all come from that. But that's also why you mispronounce a load of words, or at least I do. Because I learned them from reading them, and then just that stuck. Sounds like a video idea in terms of naming, like, when did the phases change? Yeah. Yeah. And indeed, a Warhammer example of the Mandela effect. I remember in Rogue Trader you could put bayonets on your bolters, which then allowed them to be used in close combat or whatever the phase was called back then. Okay, well, yeah. Okay, so let's get on to the fight phase. So you start the fight phase, you pile in. Pile in move is 3 inches. You have to be engaged. You have to have made a charge. And then it was selected to make an overrun fight this turn. Okay, one of the following needs to apply. That's fine. Select pile in targets. If your unit is engaged, select every enemy unit it is engaged with. Otherwise, select one or more enemy units within 5 inches. Models in base contact cannot be moved. And then you must end its move closest to its closest pile-in target. Fine. Yeah, so the pile-in is exactly the same. I don't think that's changed. I should always find it a faff. Anvil, imagine how it is for me, non-native speaker, getting introduced to D&D at age 8, HeroQuest and Warhammer at age 12. Well, then that will have taught you all the English you needed to know. Like, that's everything. Jez, hello. You're right, mate. Gaming is great for a lexicon of archaic gibberish. I agree completely. Yeah, your nephew is going through it. He's played 40k since he was 5 and he's 10 now. Yeah, I imagine he's learned a lot then in that case. Rogue Trader called it hand-to-hand combat. Thank you, Zingbo. I actually have got 3rd edition Warhammer Fantasy here as well. Let's have a look in this one. See what it says. It's embarrassing, really. Okay. Hand-to-hand combat. Goodness. Well, there you go. It's never been the melee phase. I wonder if it's a melee phase in any Games Workshop game. Right. So we've piled in, that's fine. Start a fight phase, that's fine. So you fight, you resolve fights first, combats. What? Right. A unit is eligible to fight if it's not already fighted this phase. Fighted? What? I've added that. If it hasn't already fought this phase. And here I am talking about all the words I know, like fighted. Is engaged or it was engaged at the start of the step. It made a charge move this turn. Players resolve the following sequence until all eligible units have been selected to fight and their attacks have been resolved. Okay, so you resolve fights first, combats. Fight. Goodness grief. I think what the issue is here is that it's fights first, right? So it is literally, that's the rule, fights first. I was just reading it as resolve fights first combats, and that does not make any sense. So yeah, there you go. Okay. Starting with the player whose turn it is, players alternate selecting one friendly fights first unit that is eligible to fight and then is selected to fight. Fine. Then you resolve the remaining. Yes, me bad at English, that's impossible. So yeah, okay, so when you're selected to fight, you do your normal fight, or you could do an overrun fight in certain circumstances, which is where your unit is unengaged or was unengaged at the start of the fight step, but became engaged during the fight. Okay. Oh, and in an overrun, you get to make another pile-in move and then fight as normal. Fine. And then... Did I miss anything there? Oh, so you just do... You do the fight type. Consolidation move. So if it's the fight phase and your unit was eligible to fight this turn... Your unit moves as described in moving. Okay. Both players make consolidation moves with all their eligible units to move. Each unit cannot make more than one consolidation move. Why do you have a consolidation move as well as a pile-in move? While using the engaging consolidation mode, your unit can end its consolidation move engaged with enemy units you have not yet fought in this phase. If so, each of those enemy units will have an opportunity to fight your unit. So think carefully about how aggressively you want to move your unit during this phase. Okay. So you get a consolidation move. That's after the fight, though, right? It just didn't explain... fights. Am I being weird? So you do the fight, and then it talks about when you resolve fights first, combats. You resolve remaining combats. It doesn't talk about how to resolve the actual combat. It just says when a unit is selected to fight, it's either a normal fight or an overrun fight. Okay, and then you've got an example of each, and then it goes to consolidate. So that obviously there's always been consolidation, but that comes after you've actually fought, right? Yeah, so Zingbo, you're totally right. Piling is before you do your attacks. Consolidation is after you've done your attacks. I was just kind of thrown a little bit there because I was expecting there to be another thing about resolving the fight. And it just went straight from fight to consolidation without, it felt to me, like explaining how you resolved the fight. But that's just me. So that's fine. Okay. Because, I mean, you resolve the fight in the exact same way you would for shooting, right? I assume. You have selected a unit to fight. You've worked out that it's eligible. You've decided it's going to be doing an engaged attack, and then your unit fights as described in making attacks on page 4. Okay. So yeah, all that's happened there is I was just expecting to see a reiteration of the making attacks rules, but they've just directed you to go back earlier on. That's fine. Okay, yeah, and in fact, let's just go and double check back to that bit for making attacks. You select your weapon, you select your target, you resolve the attack by rolling all of your dice according to your attack characteristic. That also tells you what you need to roll because you've got a weapon skill number that is going to be 4+ or whatever. And then you resolve the hit, and then the wound, and then the save, and then you inflict damage. Okay. Yep. That's fine. Then you do consolidation, and then we've done all of the core rules into stuff like terrain, which I'm not going to read because that's all fine. I know there's a lot of stuff around like standardized terrain these days and mirrored terrain. I prefer a sort of more characterful board, I guess I would say. Jez, I've not looked at a 40k rulebook in a long time. The layout is odd. Tiny writing on 2/3 of the page with big empty space. Strange. I think, yeah, and this is what I was saying before. I think it's because, and I actually don't mind it. I think it's quite good, actually. It's very textbooky in that you've got the sort of core rules in the large text and then a little bit of commentary to sort of add some additional detail. This reminds me of an RPG layout a little bit as well. You know, where you might have the sort of main element of whether it's the rules or the scenario, and you'll have little breakaway sections that just explain different things in slightly more detail. So I've got no problem with it. I think it's an effort to make it as clear and clean as possible, especially in the realms of, like we say, the sort of more competitive play or situations where you need to be really specific. So that's fine. So terrain, no worries there. That'll be what it'll be when we get to the table. I'm not worried about that. Benefits of cover, I suppose that is worth double checking. Each time a ranged attack targets a unit that has the benefit of cover, worsen the characteristic, the ballistic skill characteristic of that attack by 1. Okay. So, Jess, my old man eyes want a massive font. So yeah, okay. So cover now just gives you it is a negative modifier to the attacker's ballistic skill of their weapon, and I guess that's where it sort of feels stranger to me. It kind of feels passive in a weird way. So like being in cover, it doesn't grant me a benefit; it grants you a penalty, and I know that's semantics, and that kind of doesn't really matter. But I guess it's just one of those psychological things. To me, it seems more like, okay, if I'm in cover, what's the benefits of cover to me? They are that my save is better. I quite like that. That feels natural. And again, that's because I will have been, I've been doing it for 40 years or whatever. But like, to say that me being in cover makes the ballistic skill of your weapon worse is kind of an abstraction too far for me. It's not, again, it's not a problem. It's just one of those things that doesn't feel as natural. And I guess none of these rules feel natural because it's a abstracted game about space war, but you know what I mean. Is the index woefully inadequate as usual? I actually don't know if there even is an index on this, because this is only the free rules, so potentially. Lots of white space in the English rules means there's space for all the extra letters in the words in the German translation. Cover, I don't get this edition. It's like they don't know if they want things to be area terrain or true line of sight terrain. Coming from War Machine, I find it all odd. Right. Yeah, I mean, and I skipped over that little bit, but the original versions of Warhammer gave hit penalties when shooting at units in cover. Cover improving saves came in at some point after second edition 40k. Yeah, that's a great point then, Zingbo. I mean, second edition 40k is the edition I've probably played the most of, along with second and third. So I kind of feels like, yes, that makes a lot of sense. I guess fourth edition Warhammer as well, right? Fantasy. Mezzo, my moving cover to making hitting harder. By moving cover to making hitting harder means you don't have to bother rolling the wound and armor dice, saving time. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the consolidation of all the rules, isn't it? Right? They want to make it all. They want to sort of change a lot of it to just be fewer dice rolls and more simple calculations. For me, it makes sense both ways. With cover, your ballistic skill gets a penalty because you are basically shooting at a smaller target. You get a cover save because you can duck behind something. Both make sense as explanations for whichever mechanic you want. Yeah, I'm very much being precious, as is my want. But yeah, you're not wrong. It probably is just me overthinking it, ultimately, which is not, isn't that important. You know what? I'm going to win you guys all back over to me and to my side of the argument. So there you go. Now you'll all be back on my side. Or at least on Martha's side, right? There's a bit about obscuring terrain, light or dense. Dense terrain have the solid rule. Line of sight can't be drawn across solid terrain features. That's all fine. What else have we got? Terrain objectives. Okay, I'll bring you back for this. So, if a mission uses objectives, it will state where they are located on the battlefield. Typically, your mission will have a deployment map showing several points where objectives should be placed. The location of each point should coincide with a terrain area. That terrain area is the objective called a terrain objective. Okay. At the start of the battle, no objective on the battlefield is controlled by either player. To gain control of an objective, a player needs one or more models with an OC characteristic of one or more within range of it. Okay. At the end of each phase and turn, to determine a player's level of control over an objective, add together the OC characteristics of all the models in the player's army that are within the range of that objective. The player who has the highest level of control over that objective controls the objective. If you have the same level of control, the objective is not controlled by either unless it has previously been secured. Okay. That's all absolutely fine by me. I get if being in cover makes you harder to hit, but I don't get how being in cover makes it harder for you to hit people in the open, other than to make resolution of the hits easier. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure I followed. I get if being in cover makes you harder to hit. But I don't get how being in cover affects making it harder for you to hit people in the open, other than to make resolution of hits easier. Right, okay. Jez, I've not played 40k since Rogue Trader. I like to poke about in the lore and occasionally grab minis for other games, though. Yeah, I mean, and it's certainly changed a great deal since Rogue Trader, right? But it does feel quite different so far to me to later editions of 40k as well. And I think that's the simplicity and the way in which even the presence of an objective control characteristic is obviously designed to make competitive play easier to manage. I think you see it in Age of Sigmar, of course, as well. I think War Machine had this as well, right, Chris? There's a lot more about objectives and controlling objectives. That's always been a part of Warhammer, or has long been a part of Warhammer. but it's kind of a way of boiling it down to like the brass tacks of like literally making the objective and making control of objectives the most important aspect of the game. And I think this comes from, so as a narrative player predominantly, objectives and controlling objectives was never that important to me in my games. Sure, games have been won and lost on controlling objectives, but most games I would have played and still prefer to play are a weird scenario, or and it doesn't have to be equal, it doesn't have to be mirror terrain, it can be just there's more of you guys, it's 7 samurai, I've got 7 marines, and you've got whatever, that kind of thing. And actually the game is just about smashing, destroying each other, smashing the armies into pieces. Not entirely, in victory points based on how much stuff you killed, as opposed to like victory points from just capturing objectives. It's just a different way to play, I think. The Martha phase of a turn, and you agree with everything Martha says. Good. Martha, you've got some fans, I think. She's quite happy about that. Kill Team 2018 also used hit penalties for terrain, which is kind of odd because it was based on 8th edition 40k, which used cover saves instead. Yeah. Jonathan, I love how Martha is supporting your live stream. The most important element, let's be honest. Zingbo, the OC stat gives people a reason to take normal or basic troops and not just all the fancy units with cool guns, as the basic rifleman units tend to have a better OC stat. Yeah, okay. And again, yeah, okay. I mean, that makes perfect sense. I can understand what you're saying. That kind of feels to me like one of these things where it's like you take... That's because it's optimizing army lists, right? And I think part of the problem for me, and this is very much a me thing, is like I don't care about optimizing an army list. So I'm not building an army list to chase a meta or to have the best chance of winning because I've got like the pinpoint precise like calculation of it. For me, it's because I think that model is coolest. I think that unit is coolest. I think that this will make for a really fun scenario, a fun story. I really like having that. I want it in my collection. I want it on the tabletop, which probably makes me a good opponent in that I'm probably very easy to beat. But also probably makes me a bad opponent because I maybe don't take the game as seriously as everyone else. I don't know. Very much a me thing, I imagine. But yeah, terrain, objectives, all makes sense. It's not as fun in my mind, but that's okay. Here we go, though. Stratagems. Stratagems. I don't know why I pronounce it in 2 words. Stratagems. Stratagems. Okay. During the battle, both players can use stratagems. Each stratagem states how many command points it costs to use, when it can be used, what it targets, what its effects are, and any restrictions. Each time you use a stratagem, resolve the following sequence. Select targets as described. Reduce your command point total by the cost. Resolve the effects. Let's have a look at some core stratagems. Heroic Intervention. 1 command point. Core stratagem. End of your opponent's charge phase. 1 friendly unengaged unit within 12 inches of 1 or more enemy units. You can only select a vehicle if it's a character or walker. And the effect is to resolve a charge with your unit. While doing so, but before making the charge roll, you must select one of the following modes. Leap to defend. So you can only select enemy units that made a charge move this phase and are within the maximum distance, or into the fray. When making the charge roll, if the result is greater than 6, change it to a 6. And charge targets have to be within 6 inches. Okay. Oh, but there's an extra cost for that. So you can kind of upgrade. Okay, I didn't quite take that in. But you play this. Costs you 1. And if you want to do an into the fray version of it, you can pay an extra command point and you get this slightly modified version of it. Fine. Okay. All makes sense. Some will be used in your turn, some will be used in your opponent's turn, some can be used in either turns. Fair enough. Yeah, War Machine has objectives, but the game is very much pressurized because if you focus too much on objectives, your opponents could kill your leader and win outright in that way. Plus, War Machine now has more asymmetric missions for narrative play. That's fun. What War Machine does have is different objective types that can only be claimed by certain units. Okay, I quite like that. To prevent grunt heavy or warjack heavy lists. Okay. The OC stat helps armies be built that feel like armies in addition with no force organization chart. I was meaning to ask about the force organization chart, right? And how that works, but it just doesn't exist. Okay. Coolest or stupidest is absolutely the best optimization. We couldn't agree more, Jazz. I sometimes wish the required percentage points used on core troops in Warhammer Fantasy Battle was way higher than it is. Yeah, I mean, many a time that has caused me some challenges because I was just like, because I didn't want to have massive units and I just wanted to have all the. I mean, I guess it is about wanting to have cool stuff, and yes, that can be unbalanced, and you do need to police that in some way. So I understand why army building rules and requirements exist, but I also like the idea, when you come up with scenarios that just allow you to do some stuff that might put you at a disadvantage, but because it's more fun. So I'm all for that. Okay, so lots of command stratagems, that's all fine. Actions. Performing actions. Some rules allow units to perform actions. Each action will state when it starts, who can do it, how many times you can do it, what happens when it completes, and what the effect is. Okay. Aircraft and fortifications can't use them, nor can battle-shocked characters. Okay. And then you complete an action. So basically this is like different units are going to have different actions and stuff, right? So at the start, for example, deploy a device. At the start of your shooting phase, one infantry unit that is within a terrain area that is not within your deployment zone can use once per turn, and it completes at the end of turn. Set up one marker within 1 inch of your unit and within that terrain area. Fine. Okay. Advanced rules. So we've got monsters. We've got vehicles. I'm going to skip over some of these now, I think, there's your embarking and your disembarking. That's all fine. Attached units. So getting a leader into a unit. That's all fine. Strategic reserves. Yeah, so holding units back to arrive later in the battle. That's all fine. Flying and surging. Surge moves. Okay. This section supplements the basic rules for move models. Explain how some units can fly over obstacles or surge closer to the enemy. So this is just going to be some units with the surge keyword, I guess. And that is basically... Each model must end its move engaged with the surge target if possible. Each model that cannot move... Okay, so... It's just a different type of move. That's fine. Flying is fine. Aura abilities, so like buffs, faction abilities, psychic abilities. Okay, and war gear abilities. Something called plunging fire. Each time a model makes a ranged attack that targets a visible unit containing one or more models on ground level, if one or more of the following conditions apply, improve the ballistic skill of the attack. So the attacking model is on a section of terrain, or the attacking model has the towering keyword. Okay, so this is just like shooting down. Okay. Oh, so someone wants to... Hello, Aztec. Good to have you with us. Chris, I feel like I need to show you Confrontation and Ragnarok before the new edition comes out from Monolith. Rules translated from French are poetic. I actually have Confrontation 3rd edition, the core rulebook, but I've not spent much time with it. I just like the pictures. Anvil, I love the cool stuff too, but when most of an army is really the general and some heavy hitter character, or some elite troops and monsters, and then a few regular troopers, it just feels a bit wrong to me. Yeah, I can understand that. I think in certain scenarios it makes sense, but yes, as a rule, obviously you don't want to just play every game and it's just characters, because that's also boring in a different way. Zingbo, it's a flaw in the game's design if basic and core units are not useful enough for people to take them in reasonable quantities without coercion. 40k has always had a problem with standard rifles being a bit wimpy and unappealing. I think that's a very good point. Like, you need to... that sort of stuff needs to be incentivized, right? And incentivized through the rules design. So you absolutely just ought to want to, because that's what makes the most sense. And I guess, having them have higher objective control stats, it does solve that problem in a reasonably understandable way. It does make sense. But you also then are centering objective control as like the main way to play. And that's fine, and I think that probably is the way most people do play 40k these days. I don't know. Did everyone used to play with objectives? Has everyone always played with objectives and taken hold? It was just one mission type back in the day. I think I always remember. I can't remember which edition it would have been in. Maybe 3rd. It was like Meat Grinder, I think, was the scenario. That seemed to come up more often than like a taking a hold or any of those other mission types. And that really was just like wiping each other out. I always found that fun. Jacob, having missions only achievable by certain units would help. Yeah, I do think that is quite cool. Chris, you were asking about the different forms of disembarking. Is all this new? So I think that this is just... Yeah, so there's a disembark move, and then there's an emergency disembark move. I think the emergency disembark is if the transport was destroyed. So you have to make a hazard roll for each model as they disembark, which means they could be wiped out basically, because the hazards inflict mortal wounds, which are quite deadly. Which makes sense, if your rhino has gone over a cliff or been blown up. So that's kind of fine. And then there's like a load of faff around specific disembark, rapid disembark, tactical disembark, combat disembark. That's interesting though. You can do a combat disembark and take a hazard roll for each model in your unit jumping into combat. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. So we did that. Okay, and then there's reference at the back, some core abilities, some of the specific keywords. Okay. Deep Strike still there. Right. Which I think, we'll obviously get to as is required. So that all makes sense. I think it's relatively intuitive, actually. Yeah, I mean, obviously they've made a big effort to make it all like super like specific, and they've included like all of the stuff around, and it probably was in the last edition as well, and maybe even before that, but just stuff to make it very clear that, okay, you can do this before people move, you can do this after people move, but before we go to the combat or the shooting or anything else. I think that all is absolutely fine. You know what we're going to try and do very briefly, and then we'll wrap it up. I'm going to jump across to the faction pack. So I downloaded the Space Marines faction pack just to have a very quick look. I don't think this is... I think I'm going to have to like take a longer look at this, because there's so many different like task forces and like lots of different stuff here. So these are all your like different detachments, different army lists, essentially, and they all have their own special rules. They all have their own enhancements. They've all got their own detachment rule. So you know, collectively, quite a few different options here. There's no points in here though, so I have no idea how any of this changes, whatever, and what specific units are in specific detachments. Yeah. So I think this is going to take a little bit of looking around at. Yeah, Zingbo, don't you need a factions codex as well as this faction pack? I believe so. That's where you get your lore and your points and some of the army stuff, right? Points come out in the app tomorrow, Mezzo. Okay, that's good. And you're going for the Howling Griffins for 11th, and you're going to use the Librarian Conclave because they always had loads of librarians in 2nd edition. I love it. That's great. Yeah, okay. So, if we get points tomorrow, that's fun. I suppose the app is paid, is it? You don't. The app is not free. Do you get access to the points for free, or do you need to have a subscription to like Warhammer TV or Warhammer Plus rather, and all that sort of stuff? I guess. I mean, we're looking here, right? Let's just have a quick look. So, because at the moment, thinking about what I'm going to have. So I've got my Terminator squad, and I've got my Sergeant and a Librarian in Terminator armor. So that's definitely going to be in there. I'm going to have a squad of Scouts. At the moment, I'm thinking some form of Tactical Marines, and I'm thinking potentially a tank, potentially a Dreadnought. So that's kind of where I'm at. So we're talking Terminator Assault Squad. Okay. Not going to be taking Marnie Escalgar. Don't really want any special characters. Don't really want the Wardens of Ultramar. Okay, lots of special characters. Thunderhawk gunships. Right. So are there no... Okay, yeah, here we go. Legends. Okay. So, what I'm looking for... What do we got? Land Raiders. Dreadnoughts. Predators. Venerable Dreadnoughts. Land Speeders. Because I think what I'm probably going to have to face into, and I obviously will spend some time looking at this properly and doing a proper thing on this, is different Land Raiders and different types of Land Raiders, different types of Dreadnoughts. Are Scouts still here? Where are Scouts? Imperial Space Marine? Oh, so is that just that's a tactical squad? Is it? That's just that's how you would use a tactical squad. Okay. I'm gonna be honest. I don't fully understand what I'm seeing here. I feel like I'm the ancient on a bike, because yeah, I'm struggling to work out what I'm looking at. Okay, points will be free. PDF on Warcom, fantastic. I will look forward to that. Rules in the app needed a code from the Codex. The list builder seal needs a Warhammer Plus sub. Right. Thank you very much. Skywatcher. Jordan is so excited when he talks about the lore in his other shows and so tired when it's... I mean, I think that's probably unfair. I think that what you're probably seeing, and you would see it if and I've thought about doing this, but I wasn't sure anybody would actually find it interesting. Like, if you were to watch me going through old rule books or going through old White Dwarfs, you would probably see the same thing, where I'm just like processing in real time and not fully understanding what's occurring and just trying to piece it all together. that's probably an exhausted Jordan as well. But yeah, I mean, part of me likes the idea of doing like research streams where I'm looking into a specific topic. A lot of that I have to use like physical books though, so you'd need the like top down camera, which was one of the reasons I got it. Which I think could be fun, right? To sit down and go through like a load of white dwarfs together and be like looking for specific things and pointing stuff out and kind of coming across it. So I might try that at some point. That could be quite cool. I don't know if folks would be interested in that. But yes, I've no doubt I would seem perplexed in the extreme during that process as well. So I don't want to blame it all on 40k rules blow. It's actually relatively clean, these 40k rules, I would say. It mostly makes sense to me. I think army list building, I think that's probably going to be something I need to think about, but there you go. That's the nature of it. Scouts still in the regular codex. Fantastic. That's good to know. Imperial Space Marines is a data sheet for the 2016 reimagination of LE2. Okay. Right. Which I think I might have somewhere. So maybe that guy turns up. I think I got that as a present. I can't remember. I need to double check. It's not within reach. These are the Legends Codex, not the current Codex from 10th. Anvil. It's hard to have the same energy while reading and trying to understand rules as when you're talking about stories. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly true. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's just is processing, right? It's an odd. Talking through your processing of complex rules is quite strange. And I'm sure I've come across as if I have no idea what's going on. And that's mostly true, but not entirely true. Warhammer Legends of data sheets have been phased out of the current print. Okay, got you. Thank you. Jordan was looking at a legacy version of Calgar. Okay. Not everything is in here is legend though, right? Like obviously these ones all are. All these guys at the back. But there were some up top that were current, I think. Or is that not what these are? Like, is that not the current drop pod? Is that not the current Darnath Lysander? Or is he gone now? I just don't know. In any case, I'm not going to be using any of these guys. Probably not going to be using a drop pod. As cool as drop pods are, probably not going to be using one. Okay, but I think, folks, we've done all right there. I think we've, gotten to the heart of the 40k rules. They weren't too daunting. They weren't too complicated. A little bit of me was worried I was just going to have like no idea and it was going to feel so different. It does feel different. I'm looking forward to playing it on the tabletop to sort of see how different it feels. I've definitely played with stratagems and command points and stuff like that, right? So I don't know what edition they first came in, but I have definitely played with them. So it's not that different. It's very similar to AOS, to be honest. And again, that's for better and for worse, I think. It's clearly built for a more streamlined, efficient, I think, competitive mindset. I think there's definitely been an emphasis placed on how can we make this so we can reduce friction and we can reduce the potential for disagreements and different interpretations. And that can be very good and very helpful. I don't intend to play that way. So I'm going to be interested to see how it plays. If it still feels characterful enough for me in a sort of, in narrative games and stuff like that. Because I think one of the really interesting things with AOS, with Age of Sigmar and with Spearhead, for example, is that I think Spearhead is a really good, tight system for getting quick games played. Like, it's a good way if we've got lunch hour and we want to have a quick game. Fantastic. Really simple to set up. Everybody knows what's happening. Very nice and easy to play. However, I think that it's also possible to find that it becomes a bit samey the more you play it. Like there's not as much variation in tactics. Obviously, there's no variation in army lists. It feels streamlined to a point that is very good for quick play, but not very good for like long, deep exploration of the game and the rule system and the army. So that's just my take. I still do play it and I'm happy to play it, but it doesn't have the same lasting feel, the same sort of satisfying feel for me as, Warhammer 6th Edition or what have you, or even modern Necromunda. So I'll be interested to see where this lands for me. I'm quite excited to play it. I think, I think this has been interesting. The rules seem mostly reasonable. The coherency is a fun one. That seems like it could be quite extreme, but I guess it's not going to come up that often. But if you fall foul of it, I think that's going to feel real bad. But everything else seemed perfectly reasonable. And yeah, the only issues, not even issues, the only things that kind of stick out to me is that there is, for me, it's not, at the moment, and this may change once I'm playing and once it's fluid and once it feels more organic and natural. Like weapons having statistics doesn't feel to me as cool. I'm going to describe it as cool because it's not based on any rational or logical thought. It's purely preferential thing. A weapon having a ballistic skill just doesn't seem as cool to me as a Space Marine having a ballistic skill using that weapon. And I know that's like weird and just like unnecessarily like parsing the details and trying to come up with a complaint. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. It just kind of feels a bit weird. And it's, not my favorite. But I guess we'll see if I really like. I might find it really cool in play. But yeah, I feel much better equipped now. So thank you all for joining me for going through those rules. I hope it was interesting. I hope I've helped, even just working it out loud. Maybe some of you were not familiar with the rules, or maybe it's helped you consolidate your knowledge of the rules, trying to explain them to someone like me who has no idea what's happening. But I thank you for your attention. I thank you for helping me through it. And, if you want to see more of this kind of thing in the future, let me know, because I thought it was pretty good fun. It was a pretty good way to do it, actually. So yeah, let's call it there. And until next time, I hope everyone's looking forward to 11th edition and getting some games planned, because it's now's the time, right? It's coming soon. We've got like a week. Got a week or so. So yeah, okay. Well, Martha's complaining to me now as well, because she obviously wants some scritches and some treats. So I'm going to go and make sure she's doing good, because she's had a lot of time in the spotlight this evening. So thank you for that. But yeah, thank you, everyone. I will see you next time. And until then,